All right, friends. Welcome to Invictus Week. Oh boy. CIG makes decisions every once in a while that I can't say I always agree with. I think that's true for almost all of us. And I want to say the reason I'm following this game is because they've done a really, really good job of aiming for something specific. A game that ultimately, when you break everything down, it comes down to your choices and your consequences in space, right? Which ship you choose, which weapon you take, how big is your backpack, did you bring food? Just things that you consider in space, and they don't have all those features together, but they have added something into the game today that we've been waiting for, blades specifically. We've been waiting for the AI blades. These are flight blades, and these are basically the ability for a ship to be customized a little bit further outside of the bounds of what it is, which I think is great. I think engineering should allow that. And I also think that blades, to an extent, should allow that. Now, here's the official description of them. These flight blades and weapon kits will increase your speed or maneuverability or swap out and optimize your ordnance. It has never been easier to be your own kind of pilot with flight blade kits to customize your ability and weapon kits to customize your loadout. Both available this Invictus. Now, two different things, right? Flight blades and weapon kits. I have two separate problems with these two separate things, and I don't want to tell anybody how to spend their money, but as I feel like I need to maybe say that this is a little bit ridiculous. It's kind of sad. We're going to go through the kind of the history of how CIG has done this, but they are now selling essentially the ability to customize your ship slightly outside of its bounds for money. The AI blades themselves, from the money perspective, aren't such a big deal to me if they were also available in game. And really the reason I say that is because the first argument most people are going to have about this is, hey, you don't have to buy this, right? This is what we say about every ship in the game. And when it comes to ships, I agree. Because ships are a large statement. It's a big investment. It's something to learn. It's something to earn. And it's a different balance when it comes to ships, which you can always find alternatives on how to handle a ship you can't afford. But for these, it's so small. Like, it's almost to the point of, if you look at the description of one, says these top speed balance and precision handling balance flight blades are designed for the Anvil Arrow and special edition Nightbreak ship paint features black camo with red highlights. So this is unlocking the potential for these blades from Broad and Raby. By allocating lateral thrust resources with the TSB flight blade, you can expect your ship to deliver increased top speeds in the straightaway. Alternatively, by reallocating forward thrust resources with the PHB flight blade, your ship will deliver increased precision handling during tight maneuvers. Now, okay, but what the does that mean? Like, we don't even have numbers, yeah? Generally, when I say look at these ships, it's feel the vibe, right? Look at what CIG is selling this ship as. That's what it'll eventually be balanced around to. And you could say the same things about these blades. But we don't even know how the flight model is going to work, right? Because Master Modes is about to be gone, so they're going to introduce a slower base level acceleration, which could have been changed by components. We actually saw that in the, I believe, February monthly report of Star Citizen. There was actually a line kind of hinting at this coming along, that we would be able to change the speed of our ships. Variable velocity limits per power assignment were added, now assigning different power changes, the acceleration, and in turn, max velocity. So the idea that we would be able to edit the speed our ships fly or maneuver at, it was planted. The idea was planted like months ago. But to release it in this sort of like not quite there edition for money specifically is rough. Again, I know this is happening for ships. And this also happens for skins. Like, this is really just the continuation of a slippery slope they've already been on. But I just think this should have been an in-game thing. I love the idea of flight blades, don't get me wrong. Customizing ships is great, but I think there's some level of care that needs to be taken about going back to those original two things, choice and consequence. If you could customize a Mustang to perform like a Gladius, it starts to make it harder to balance those two ships against each other because your variables and your extremities become so far away from what the role and specific purpose of that ship were. And again, I just want to emphasize for everybody, I'm not against ship customization. I think utility mounts, engineering, components, all that stuff, it's great to allow that to allow us to customize ships in that way. But we're seeing these are blades. We're not seeing cooler components added to the store for money. And even if we were, I feel like we at least would have had components, the cooler components for a while beforehand. If these were added to the game as earnable in-game right now at the same time they were put on the store, I wouldn't really care that much about this. Yeah, they're selling it. They probably should be because at least some things shouldn't be sold, but it's much better than making these paywalled for 6 weeks at least. And just like with ships, which again, I think make more sense, you're not going to be able to get these without paying money for the first however long. And that will probably be the same for every subsequent release. If they're doing this daily, if they're doing this weekly, monthly, I don't know how often they're going to release this stuff, but they seem to be sticking to this idea that there will be a level of exclusivity, if whether it's a ship or a component or a blade or whatever. And I think this is going to only increase the toxicity and somebody's going to take offense to that. Not toxicity, but the general vitriol that Star Citizen's funding model has. They're too worried about money. CIG, you just keep making a good game and letting people play it, and we're good. Guys, this delay of Squadron 42 coming out, I don't think this would be happening like this if Squadron 42 was already out. I think that they would be a lot more confident in the money and the future of the studio. And right now, we can just very much see that they have a line to meet before that game comes out, because we are in this period of time where Squadron hasn't released and Star Citizen is not at the state it can sustain itself. And so it feels, I just don't like it. Going on to the weapons kits, I think these offer an even worse precedent, which is that we're seeing full-on weapon kits that can actually change the function of your ship put behind the paywall. And I love that they include like the shirt and the hat with this. Like that's what people, I was just on Inforunners, go check it out if you haven't. I had a good talk with Execute at length about this and the rest of Invictus Week Day 1. But this was something specifically that we were having problems about, because according to him, he said that even though they've done this before with weapons and armor and stuff where they'll sell it to you, one of the key things that happens is once they do become available in game, the melt value of them, this $25 value of them, does decrease. So you're essentially losing value if you do buy these out of game, but you're also losing time if you don't, because they're currently exclusive. Now, this equips a Scorpius with a missile turret, right? Stocked with 16 size 2 missiles instead of, I guess, the top turret here, turning it into a missile boat. But we also have like bomb racks, which can go on a multitude of different ships: the Gladius, the Arrow, the Defender, the Freelancer, the Talon, the Mercury Star Runner. And I find myself thinking, like, a bomber is a pretty specific role. And they're currently working on engineering, saying how they want to have every roll of a ship fly a certain way. Maybe this doesn't happen with bomb racks, but how far does it go that you guys are going to sell these weapon kits for different things and start to, again, tread into another ship's territory, making it so you got to make even more nuanced decisions to make them different? Because every ship should be a choice. Shouldn't just grab a random ship and throw. This is all my personal philosophy. I'm ranting a little bit. I'm trying to be open about how I feel about this, and I feel like this is a step too far for CIG. I think they need to really sit back and like consider the implications of this going forward. The Atlas was already kind of a look at something like this FOMO of a specific type of gameplay. Now, the Atlas had a tractor beam. We had other tractor beams. I didn't have too much an issue with that. And we have other bombing racks. But again, it's different. You're changing the role of these ships. You're changing the choice that's being made. And I think that's a slippery slope. This on its own, not great that it's being charged money. And the idea that you're changing the role of these ships isn't a problem now. I'm more worried about where this progresses towards, and what, like, the predictability of encountering even one of these ships or vehicles is just, it'll start to be less and less. You can't really look at a ship and be like, oh yeah, that's a hurricane, when in reality it's got like an EMP gun on the top of it or something, and suddenly, no, it's not a hurricane, it's a freaking mantis offshoot of some sort. That's quantum interdiction. Whatever, you get what I'm saying. Changing ship roles is pretty cool, but it sounds like it's going to complicate the balance a lot more. That's not necessarily a critique of how the company is operating. That's more just a worry I have about how the game is progressing. The critique of the company is, don't freaking put these behind paywalls, guys. At least not first, at least not exclusively. Like, we all know CIG depends on FOMO, but this is such a small type of thing to do FOMO about. And it's actually better than variants. I prefer having, obviously, some different customization kits for ships rather than having 4 different Mantis variants because, hey, we need to. But I'm also like, why does the Scorpius need to have missiles? Why does the tank have to have a ballistic Gatling gun or whatever it is? I hate to be the kind of person who's like, yeah, limit the gameplay. We don't need this. I don't make that decision. But this is a lot, guys. And I'm guessing this all is kind of coming in alongside the Idris, which is released today. And we can see that they actually have the kits for the Idris here too. So like, this was probably a big part of this. This was a whole initiative, you know, making sure that aftermarket kits were working for ships and we could easily equip them and of course buy them. Probably playing off the module system that they developed before. And they introduced a new kit with the Idris. And again, cool. But what about like an Idris medical kit? Maybe like a special Idris cargo hauling kit that has a giant tractor beam. Like, I love choice. I love things. But sometimes there is too much choice. Sometimes there are too many things. And maybe just continuing to develop and iterate on the quality of your current game, systems, ships, weapons, you know, all the stuff that you guys are talking about in Star Citizen Live and are showing us in monthly reports and are slowly getting to. Maybe just keep doing that, instead of continuously expanding and adding more assets that need to be balanced and maintained and price adjusted and just made sure they made sense as we keep going. The game's freaking huge already, guys. Yeah, I don't know. The FAQ has some questions where you can get answers to. I think one of the most important ones here was, will Flightblades be available to purchase from in-game stores? Says yes, Flightblades will become available in in-game stores for AUEC following the end of their pledge exclusive availability, similar to how we introduced new vehicles. Now, this is not very clear, so I opened this page right when this went live. But if I refresh it, I believe this is different now. So now, I believe it says, here we go. Will Flightblades be available to purchase from in-game stores? Yes, Flightblades will become available in in-game stores for AUEC this summer. Honestly, they should have asked, will it be available in-game? These would be, how is this not a Wicklow thing? How did they not say, hey, we're giving people all these special ships. Why don't we just like give them Flightblades? Or maybe fancy loot in the hardest to get places. The caves. Those aren't hard to get to. Contested zones. Freaking, I don't like, these could have been in-game. They could have been so great for in-game right now. Do Flightblades give a competitive advantage? Flightblades offer tuning flexibility, giving you more control over your ship's behavior. There is no shortcut to mastery. It's all about making smart decisions for how you want to play. This is true. It's still true. You can put all the Flightblades you want in your ship and you're still going to get wrecked by somebody who's better at flying. But they got to be careful with it, because if you've got somebody who's skill level 98 and somebody who's skill level 100, this could start to lose its effect, especially as you add more of these things. And I don't think that's a problem for, again, if they're natural ways of doing things, but if they're freaking only available to money, then that could be an issue. Why were these ships chosen is a good question here. It's talking about the Gladius, Avenger, Redeemer, Scorpius, MPUV, Arrow, Pisces, and Hammerhead. These are the ships that currently use blades. These ships were selected for the initial rollout of the flight blades to cover a broad spectrum of playstyles and ship roles, but this is just the beginning, and there are plans to make flight blades available for other ships in the future. Now, I think this first wave is going to be where people like myself, as I've been seeing on Reddit, obviously you don't even have to check Spectrum, but also on Blue Sky, folks are talking and looking at this and being a little bit surprised by this, mostly Ruben. On Twitter, you'll find people making comments about this and what this means for the game, how it feels to happen. I think in general, this is going to blow over, as do most things in Star Citizen. It's going to be one of those things that matters right now, but by the time they're launching the second or third wave, it'll be a minority of the community. It is already a minority of the community. Don't get yourselves wrong. Most people don't know about this yet, don't care about it, and probably won't see anything about it for a long time. You are already in the minority if you know about this. But I do think that this will just be one of those things that kind of fades away over time. I hope that CIG, though, reconsiders exclusivity on things like these items. If there's anything that I think should be changed of this, don't make these exclusive to the stores. Please, just release them to the game, okay? These aren't ships. People didn't pledge for these to help develop the game. These are just things that should be in the game to be used. Especially because you guys are trying to emphasize gameplay ability. You're trying to make people feel like they can progress and build themselves up over time in this game. And the faster and the more you can do that with these items, instead of putting them in the store, the better. I know you want sales from the exclusivity. Let the people who want to support the game buy them for the money because they want them permanently. They want to support the game and they can put that money forward. Let the people who just want to play the game just play the game. Yes, I know they can do that without these. I'm saying let them play everything that is available in the game. I think Star Citizen should always opt to try and do that, except for, the weird exclusives they did. Either way, that is my rant. This went on so much longer than I meant it to, guys. I will have a lot more to say about this as I can actually sit and look and think about it and consider the complications of this. I hope you got something from this. Hopefully you don't hate me for just having a small problem with this. And hopefully CIG considers how this release has gone and makes maybe some small adjustments going forward. Either way, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.